This giant sequoia can tower over 300 feet tall, and that tiny human silhouette shows just how unbelievably massive it truly is. But here's the real shock. This one tree can weigh as much as 10 fully grown blue whales combined. 10 whales floating in the ocean still don't outweigh the quiet strength of a single ancient tree. In fact, a mature tree can stand as tall as a 25-story building in your city skyline. Gravity pulls everything down, yet this towering trunk holds its ground without collapsing under its own weight. Many people believe trees grow deep roots straight down like giant underground spears, but that idea is actually wrong. The truth is surprising. Most tree roots spread wide and shallow, like a giant living pancake just beneath the soil. So, if roots don't dig deep to gather mass, then where does all that massive weight really come from? Trees don't eat soil like we eat food, and they definitely aren't swallowing dirt for dinner. If trees consumed soil, we would see huge empty craters forming around every forest on Earth. But look closely, the ground stays level, the soil untouched, and the mystery remains. So scientists began asking a powerful question: where does the mass of a tree actually originate? Wood, leaves, and bark all seem solid and heavy, but their true source might surprise you. A tree inhales the invisible air around it, pulling in something we can't even see. At the heart of everything alive is carbon, the tiny building block, sometimes called the brick of life. Stack enough carbon bricks together, and you can build almost anything in the living world. Humans, diamonds, and trees all share the exact same carbon foundation at their core. Yet carbon dioxide makes up only a tiny fraction of our atmosphere compared to nitrogen and oxygen. Hidden among thousands of molecules, those few CO2 particles hold incredible potential energy. A tree is basically a biological factory, pulling invisible gas from the air and turning it into solid wood. It can take thousands of tons of air and compress it into a single ton of dense wood. Leaves act like solar panels, capturing sunlight and powering the entire operation. Inside each leaf are millions of tiny green cells, stacked like microscopic bricks. Inside those cells, chloroplasts work like tiny construction crews, wearing invisible hard hats. They grab carbon from the air and start building it into strong wooden structures. What begins as invisible gas slowly transforms into a solid trunk you can actually touch. Zoom back out, and that microscopic process becomes a towering forest before your eyes. And none of it would be possible without a single drop of water. Even one droplet of water can reflect the entire story of a living tree inside it. Inside the trunk, water races upward against gravity like a natural hydraulic pump. In tall trees, that water can rise as high as a 10-story building. Flip a leaf over, and you'll find thousands of tiny openings called stomata. These microscopic mouths open and close, controlling the tree's invisible breathing. Out of every 100 drops absorbed by roots, about 95 escape back into the air. That constant release of moisture cools the air like a natural air conditioning system. In massive rainforests, billions of trees create rivers of vapor that rise into the sky. Remove the forest, and lush green landscapes can collapse into dry, lifeless desert. Trees don't just live in their environment, they actively create it. Sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide combine to form glucose, the tree's fuel source. That stored energy moves up the food chain, feeding insects, birds, and eventually us. Wood itself is basically solidified sugar, locked into strong carbon chains. During the day, trees release oxygen, giving us the breath we depend on. But at night, they quietly consume oxygen too, just like every living thing. By day, they build energy through photosynthesis. By night, they respire like us. Even underground microbes are breathing, competing for oxygen in the soil. But the true lungs of Earth are not just forests. They are the oceans. Tiny algae and cyanobacteria drift through seawater, almost invisible to the eye. Yet they release massive columns of oxygen that rise toward the surface. In fact, the majority of Earth's oxygen comes from ocean life, not trees on land. Beneath our feet lies another hidden world, layered with mystery and life. Soil isn't dirt. It's a complex universe of particles, minerals, and organisms. Above ground is only half the story. Below is a second empire. Roots weave through soil like explorers navigating an underground maze. At the tips, delicate root hairs absorb precious water molecule by molecule. Sometimes roots collide with solid rock, blocking their path forward. Yet given time and pressure, roots can crack stone itself. What you see above ground is just the tip of a much larger underground network. Beneath the soil lies a tangled web of roots far more complex than we imagine. Most of that network spreads horizontally within the top 10 inches of soil. At each root tip is a sensitive cap that helps guide its direction. Tiny internal particles shift with gravity, helping the root sense which way is down. Roots can even detect subtle vibrations in the soil, like listening for water. They also sense nutrients, chemically tasting minerals around them. When faced with choices, signals inside the plant decide which path to take. Massive rocks may block the way, seeming impossible to overcome. But roots squeeze into tiny cracks and slowly force the rock apart. They can even release acids that dissolve minerals into usable nutrients. Those dissolved particles are absorbed and transported upward as fuel. Alone, a root's reach is limited and nutrients can be scarce. That's where fungi enter the story. Fungi are neither plants nor animals. They belong to an entirely separate kingdom. Tree roots and fungi often form partnerships called mycorrhizae. The tree trades sugar for minerals in a mutually beneficial exchange. Fungal threads extend far beyond roots, accessing hidden pockets of nutrients. Underground, these threads form a glowing web linking entire forests. Scientists call it the wood wide web. Large mother trees can send energy to shaded seedlings through this network. Sugar packets travel along fungal highways from one tree to another. If one tree is attacked by insects, warning signals are triggered. Those alerts spread underground, allowing neighbors to boost their defenses. In just 1 cubic meter of soil, miles of fungal threads can exist. If stretched out, a single thread could extend astonishing distances. Some estimates suggest fungal networks could wrap around the Earth many times over. The old view saw trees as isolated. Modern science sees them as connected. Forests may look silent, but chemically they are incredibly loud. Trees can even keep a neighboring stump alive through shared roots. Some species release chemicals to suppress competitors nearby. High above, tree crowns often avoid touching, creating intricate sky patterns. Even fungi can negotiate, demanding more sugar in exchange for nutrients. Entire forests can shift chemistry together when under threat. Inside each trunk, massive amounts of carbon are safely stored for decades. Tree-lined streets can cool cities by several degrees compared to bare pavement. A single tree can host birds, insects, mammals, and countless microbes. Even a fallen log becomes a thriving platform for new life. Decomposers break old wood down, returning nutrients to the soil. Trees operate on a timescale far slower than human life, but machines can erase decades of growth in minutes. When networks are severed, the underground glow begins to fade. Yet planting a single sapling can restart that connection. From space, forests appear like the living skin of our planet. Our lungs and tree canopies mirror each other in a shared rhythm. Beneath the soil, that hidden civilization continues buzzing with life. Trees inhale carbon from the air. Leaves capture sunlight and power transformation. Roots and fungi connect forests into living networks. To a child, a tree is already magical. Science makes it even wilder. A tree is a self-sustaining energy system powered by sunlight and air. Protecting forests means protecting the breath of our future. Every deep breath you take contains a story that began in sunlight. Every leaf releasing oxygen completes an ancient cycle. When you hug a tree, you are embracing the source of your next breath. And in the end, all that remains is a single leaf, quietly pulsing with life.